Hello, and welcome to the Consistent Profits Podcast, brought to you by Inside Out Trading and Brian McAvoy, where the focus is on consistency. Because when you have the consistent part down, the profits become easy. Hello, everyone. This is Brian McAvoy with a new episode of the Consistent Profits Podcast. I'm totally jazzed today to be introducing Patrick Reid, who co-founded Adamis Principle in 2017 in London, England, to educate and mentor FX traders at all levels, working in both the retail and institutional spaces, which actually is that covers a lot of ground. So that you can do both is pretty good. Thank you so much for being on the Consistent Profits Podcast today.
Well, thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here. Thanks very much for the invitation.
Cool. Well, I got to tell you, what really caught my attention, though, when I first ran across when I ran across you, was your title on your LinkedIn profile, where you say helping late career changers become profitable professional FX traders in 12 months. I mean, when I saw that, I thought, now that's really cool. I got to see what this guy is about. And, because there are tons of people that, they really are not happy in what they're doing, and they want to change careers. So that they, not just having the freedom and control over their lives, but just because, it's not fulfilling, and trading definitely offers a lot. So anyway, when I read some of your posts that you've got, I was really impressed. You got a lot out there, a lot of information, and you've got actually a really unique voice, so to speak, as far as what you share and the perspectives that you do. It's definitely not the ordinary trading chatter, and that's why I wanted to reach out to you and get you on here. By the way, just, thanks for sharing the perspectives and being game, for this interview on the podcast. So how about we start with the one thing I noticed that I thought was pretty cool is that you used to be, before trading, you were in television, and actually at one point even on a food channel. So that's kind of they're not exactly adjacent careers. So how did you make that transition? What was the path that led you to trading?
It's a really good question. And I with our company, we help late career changes because that's me. That's what I did. Basically, I was a creative. I worked at the BBC for 15 years, and I was in my late 30s, and I came to this kind of jump off point where I was really safe in the job. I was earning pretty good money. I was at like mid-management level. I did a bunch of stuff in the BBC and various TV companies, and that was great. And then I met a guy who was about to retire, and I think all they gave him was this autograph book and a carriage clock and a final thank you. And he'd done like 30 odd years. And I was like, that's me in a few years' time. So I was like, this is not going to happen. I was like, I went to the lavatory and I looked in the mirror and I was like, I'm getting old. You've only got one life. So I thought, I was single, no kids. And I was like, I'm just going to try and think about being curious about, I loved the film Wall Street, and it was a classic kind of, I love the idea of being a trader, but I didn't know what actually was involved. So for some reason, it was just like an epiphany. A friend of mine's husband is a massive prop desk trader in futures contracts. And I went to see him, and his name was Jamie, and we went to see him, went for dinner. And I went into this big tower and saw all the guys and saw the screens and saw the shouting. Some of those guys came from Chicago, because that's where it was born with futures. And I was like, sign me up. This is I want this. I was old. I was like late 30s, and he was like, let's go through. You make sure you know what you're dealing with and know what you're in for. And I was like, this is fantastic. So I signed up. So I left my job, and I was really scared. And I was like, no, I've got one shot in life. I'm just going to do it. Mm-hmm. So I started their apprenticeship at the grand old age of 38 and a half. And I was surrounded by kids, they were like 20-year-olds. And I was like slow. I was, kind of, I guess, left-leaning politically because I came from the BBC. Right. I was very creative. I loved writing. And I walked in with my suit, and everyone was wearing jeans and t-shirt. And I was like, what the hell is this? And everyone turned around and they were like, new guy. Yeah. So all of my preconceptions of what a futures pick looked like was just gone out the window. And then I just started, and it was early mornings, late nights. It was, the fast, furious shouting. It was events. It was non-farm payroll. It was, market profile back in the day that came from Stiegelmeier, way back in Chicago. And I was a sponge, and I got myself a mentor, and I just said, I want it real. I want it truthful. Don't mince your words. I just want to learn everything. And boy, did I get that. So the second week I was doing it, I actually went to the toilet and had a little cry. It was that difficult.
Wow.
So I was like, yeah, this is why they get paid a lot of money. But you know what? I knew I was in the right place, and I knew this was my future. And that was 15 years ago. So the first year I was trading German debt, government bonds, called the Bund. And that was my first kind of experience as an institutional trader. Then I started trading S&P, Euro stocks, the T-note, and the gilt market. And then I moved to FX, and that's where I sort of really found my legs a bit. A year in, I was having an up and down time, to be fair. And then I was on this verge of kind of giving it up. And one of my mentors, one of the senior traders there, just took me aside and said, look, just look in the mirror and just try your best and give it your best shot for the next month. And then, come to terms with it, because you tried, you've been there nearly a year. And I had good days, had bad days, I was treading water basically. So at the end of that, it was all kind of like make or break. And then I did a couple of trades that paid for the whole year. And it was just phenomenal. And I realized that the curve is exponential, and it just went up like that. And that's what it's like for a lot of traders. So I thought, wow, this was like month 12. And the second year I did very well. I did incredibly well. I made a lot of money. And I found my edge, and my edge was being slow. I was what is known as a good fader. So if for those retail traders out there who don't know what that is, that's basically when a market moves in a direction after, say, US jobs or whatever, and you think it's overdone, you'll go against it. So you think it will revert back to where it came, or the mean. And I became quite good at that. Only because my reaction was really slow. Everyone was super quick, and I was like really, really slow, and I had to be good at something. And then I was good at patterns and, and stuff like that. I was really good at macro, and I really, my heart, because I lived in the US, my heart really connected, with the US macro picture and the story there, and how the central bank worked and things like this. And, I just loved it, So then I specialized in that. And, my second year I did really well. And then I got poached by a New York hedge fund called Edgewater. They got a small office in London. So that's when I opened up to Spot FX. And then I was under the tutelage of big spot guys who run tier one bank desks like Goldman Sachs, UBS, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley. And that is when my knowledge really blew apart. And I was, trading spot with the deepest market ever, 7 trillion a day gets put in volume. So that taught me about the treasury curve. It taught me about central bank policy. It taught me about risk, and I really made a lot of headway there. And I was doing that for about a year. Then Adam, my old boss, when I was trading spot, basically we kind of looked at each other and we was like, we need to set up a company. And there was our Adamis Principle, and we were born there. And we started out really being a hub of excellence. I wanted to cut through the BS in trading with one leg in institutions, but one leg in retail, because I haven't got an MBA and what economics degree, all that. I came from a completely opposite industry as a late career changer, and I made it, so I wanted to kind of give that out and just say, look, you don't have to have degree in mathematics or economics. You just have to have a good mentor and you've got to really work hard. It's very hard work. But if your passion is there, you will make it. So I just surrounded myself with very smart cookies, and I learned from the desk. I learned everything in macro from the desk, and price and risk and technicals and all that stuff. So Adamis Principle was born. I head up the mentoring and education arm. Adam has an executive search arm, but we also do business consultancy for prime brokers, hedge funds. I'm on the board of a Slovenian hedge fund, and we're going in that way as well. So we go in, we parachute in, we sort out their problems and leave. But so that's pretty much it. That's me up to date.
Well, that's cool. And thank you for sharing all that. That's actually a really cool story that you got there. And as far as how you were able to go from one, I mean, so when you first started out, you were actually down on the pit floor. Did I understand you correctly?
Yeah.
Well, going from there to it sounded like you went to trading a managed account, correct?
Yeah, I traded what is known as being a local. So that's trading your own money. So I had 50,000 sterling, and the pits were not like the open outcry pits that we had in life. They had closed, and they transferred those pits onto pits with screens, basically.
Right.
So very similar, same futures contracts, and a lot of shouting and a lot of screens, but no jackets, basically. So I was doing that, and yeah, so I was a local, so I had about 50K, and I was managing my own account for my own money. Then I traded the prop desk money after that. So what that enabled me to do is to trade much bigger size, but I obviously got less percent on that. So that's the deal. That it was fine. So it was just a smaller slice of a much bigger pie.
Sure. Huh. Well, I just find it cool that you're able to go from, where you started down to the pits, which is like a crazy place for anybody to start their trading career. Very few do. Usually, I mean, I've known a few, people who've experienced the pits over the years, and usually they've got at least some experience or exposure to the industry before they wind up there. So it's like going straight into the lion's den for your first lessons. Well, it's also really cool that you wound up. You said that you were trading with what was the large firm that you left from to start Adamis?
Yeah, so that was at Edgewater Markets.
Edgewater Markets, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that you were able to go from trading your own account to that kind of a position is excellent. I mean, how did you manage to make that transition?
I just learned, I'm obsessive.
Okay.
So I got a good mentor, and I literally lived and breathed it 24/7 for about a year.
Right.
And I just sat next to someone and asked questions, and I was so enthusiastic. They just didn't have the heart to tell me to go away. So I was like, yeah, what's this? How does that move? Why is that doing that? What do I do if I do that? I made every single mistake you could possibly think of. But because I was just so consistent and persistent, and I just showed that grit, despite, getting beaten every day, I bobbed back up like a cork.
Right.
And that was quite attractive to those guys. And they were like, this guy is rolling sleeves up,
Right.
getting on with it. He's not shy. And I was like, and I was coming up with ideas. And that's the thing about, if you ever want to question everything, right? Because half the people don't know what they're doing. Right? And that is on an institutional level, right? And I'm not joking. Like you can come up with fancy words and long, complicated arguments, but essentially no one really knows. And the market is basically, therein lies the market, because you get buyers and sellers for everything. Right. I could tell you a position of my dollar view. Somebody else out there has got it the opposite. Right. We're both right. So I thought all the banks had got it all clued up and they knew everything. They don't. So I was just like, oh, that really gave me a lot of confidence. And I was thinking, well, look, if they don't, maybe I can try and find out.
Right.
So it was just basically like that. But yeah, it sounds like a dream job. It is. But I did have a hard time. It was so difficult. But I knew it was almost like I did it like my life depended on it. And I didn't have a social life. I didn't have any really my close friends are still with me, but I just like really focused on that for the first year and a half
Right.
because I really wanted it. And I just wanted to like, I started drawing little charts at home and, I just devoured it. And I was shocked that I just thought everyone else did it like that.
Mm.
But you'd be like, there are people that are at institutional level who just do half the work. And I'm like, you're training with so much money and your upside is so massive. Like, why are you putting 1,000% in it? And that's what got me to a higher level. And I started like mixing with spot FX traders who had run like sell side. So ex Goldman's guys, ex UBS guys, ex Morgan Stanley guys, JP Morgan guys.
Yeah.
And they saw that in me because they were at Edgewater and they were like, we're going to give this guy time. We're going to tell him anything he wants. And, there was a guy, Adam is one of these guys. He's my business partner. There's another guy called Serge, another guy called Beat. And I was like, I asked them everything. And they were like, yeah, keep asking, keep asking. And I was writing. I mean, I'm old school. I write this every day. I do a one-pager and writing with a pen. I do my market view every single day. I've done that for about 15 years. So it's in my blood. I love it. I love markets and it's infectious. So that's probably why, and I had a lot of ideas as well. So that's probably why I got surrounded by clever people.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, yeah, definitely not the usual story that most traders have. So very cool indeed. Well, so as far as late career changers, I mean, they're people of all varieties that get into trading. How did you wind up deciding to focus on late career changers?
Yeah, I mean, I found that there are people out there who are bored. They've got golden handcuffs. They're locked in, and they want to change. So these are the people that I find I can help, and it's just because it's what I did.
Okay.
So people of a certain kind of industry or certain age or a certain kind of qualification or a certain income, they come into this kind of profile that they think, well, okay, that's my lot. That's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. No, because you can, if you're curious and you're passionate enough, you can make a change. Because I did it.
Right.
I did it, and I'm living proof that it can work. And I just felt I wanted to give a voice to these people. Look, we do help people, young people at college and also, all industries, all walks of life, obviously. But I felt because it's my own personal experience, I can give a lot more to that.
Right. Well, I don't know. I find it kind of a cool criteria because anytime, like us, we're in the business of serving other people. It's like, okay, who do we want to focus on? And uses like selection criteria, so to speak, for lack of a better phrase. I just thought that was really cool because most businesses, just in general, when they're saying who do I want for my target market, so to speak, and you try to get clear on who you want to serve, it's usually stuff like demographics, age group or occupation or stuff like that. But I think it's really smart and very cool that you chose this one in particular because it's a certain group within most other groups, but it's still a nice clear criteria. So like I said, it caught my attention, but it's actually really cool and it does make sense. So what are the main things that you're looking for in people that, come to you and say, yeah, I want your help? What are the main things that you're looking for in them besides the curiosity and the passion? Are there other things that you're looking for as well?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that curiosity, grit, and passion are the three things. But usually what happens is we have a conversation and I ask them what their biggest frustration is. I also ask them what the most important thing is in their life. And based on that, I can understand, obviously, we talk about the budget and based on experience and how much time they can put in. So really, we do all this analysis and we work out where they want to be. Right. So some people come to us with certain specific kind of wishes and dreams. Some people want to work in a futures desk, which we can do as well. And that's just, you can't do that. You can't walk off the street and go into a futures desk. I'm sure you know that. So we can do that. We can facilitate that. Some people just want to trade their own account as a parallel income. Some want to do the full flip to be a professional trader. We do that as well. And for me, I say from the outset, this is not for everyone.
Oh yeah.
This is really is gonna, it's the best job on the planet. It's an amazing job. It's very sort of demanding, but the rewards are mind blowing. And I wanted to kind of keep it real and say, look, avoid the Instagram BS, avoid the Ferraris and all of that. You can have all that, right? But do you know what you have to do to get that? It's hard work, right? It's really hard work, and markets have an uncanny ability to find your weak spot, whatever that is, right? And they'll twist and they'll turn and they'll poke that weak spot, and it's my job to help protect that weak spot in you. And we all have it. We all have a DNA as trading, right? So one of the things I wanted to sort of now talking about it is the reason we're different is the daily mentoring. So you get access to me every day through our live show, and I'm very approachable because I feel that a lot of it is kind of a one size fits all, and it's like, there you go, do your thing and then forget it. For me, markets are about context, and it's about, oh, okay, so say we've got non-farm tomorrow. This is the day before on the recording. It's non-farm payroll in the US, huge figure. Where's the market position for that? What is the Fed said about that? Where's dollar? What are buyers and sellers looking to do on that? What are we expecting? What happens if it doesn't deliver? What does that do to the Fed after a strong inflation? All of these contextual things make up our daily show, basically. And so we get people prepared for live events. Obviously, we were very close to the Bank of Japan, and when dollar yen was at 152, we were advising on interventions and stuff like that. So that daily contact is, through our small private groups, is really key, and that's what you really need. That's what I feel that I got. So yeah, we're looking for that really. And in our people, coming back to what you're saying, people who want to know more, and we usually give them a sit down and get to know them and what they really need, and then we can deliver.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, so I mean, in your career, you've experienced a lot. What's your focus now, as far as, if you were like to describe it for somebody? I mean, what's your area of focus as far as what you're looking at in the markets, and kind of your area of expertise, so to speak, at least as far as what you got going on right now?
Yeah, I mean, FX is my expertise, especially the US macro story.
Okay.
I'm very comfortable with all the data and where dollar's positioned right now. I'm very conscious of the global inflation problem. And I'm very conscious of what the Fed's next move will be. So we do have this idea that the global bond market is in free fall. So global yields are really rallying. This was off the backdrop of, at one point we were having inflation come lower, and that's turned around again after the last inflation print, which is PCE. That exploded. We've got great data in the US. My concern really, which is where we're focusing our clients, is, has the Fed done too much too soon? They front loaded their rate hikes, 75 basis points a few times, and now are we going to get a hard landing? Are we going to get a really tricky kind of recession, or is the Fed gonna ease up a bit? That's the key thing. And at the moment, this week we had the Jake Paul testimony, and he was resolute, right? Longer for higher. It was, he's always said this. He's very, very pragmatic. My favorite central bank head, just absolutely hands down. I mean, if you compare that to, say, the UK or Europe, hands above. So good. So well, I mean, I feel I'm pretty comfortable with the Fed and dollar. And we're looking at sort of seeing dollar consolidate around this around these kind of high points. But the key thing for me is there's a good story coming out of China with the data, but the problem is if global yields rally too much, then that could force the Fed's hand to ease up, to avoid a recession. Basically, that's what we're looking at.
Cool. That was actually a really good summary. That was like 90 seconds. You said a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, very cool. Now, the reason I was going to jump in there is as far as the Fed heads, it's like you actually have a favorite. They're like on the positive side of the spectrum, or is it like with many public figures, or usually is it back to the lesser of two evils kind of thing? So
Yeah, I mean, if you think about Jay Powell, I think he's much better than Yellen. And if you think about Jay Powell, compare it to, say, Andrew Bailey, Philip Lowe, or Christine Lagarde. There's no competition. I mean, the Fed. Look, I guess maybe it's an easier story because the macro picture is largely pristine. So it can be quite easier. But I just like Jay Powell and what he says. He's just very pragmatic. He's not perfect, but we got the UK was in a tailspin after the autumn statement back in September, when the bond market just collapsed. So we're still kind of nursing our wounds from that, and unbelievably, Europe is a very difficult game to play as well because it's so big, and the governing council and the ECB is so huge. You've got huge divergence with the Germans and say France and Italy, the complete opposite. It's a bit like, not quite like a Greece-Germany crisis, but you do have all these different countries, all these different cultures that have all these different ideas, and they leak their ideas onto the press through their sources, and they do this like 2 days after Christine Lagarde does her official announcement. So for me, the Fed is a winner.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's nice. Well, that's really cool, and what you got going on, that's really very cool indeed. And I can see just the enthusiasm in your voice when you talk about it and everything. Yeah, this stuff is interesting and it is fun. Challenging, but yeah, definitely. So very cool. And especially still being fired up about it after all this time you've been, how long you've been in this trading game. So very cool indeed. A different question for you though. You said that you've had some people who were very helpful in your growth and development. They like saw your drive and they're like, yeah, keep asking the questions and everything. So who would you say were one or two people that have had a really strong influence on you, and how did they impact you?
Yeah, I mean, I've had many people. There's not one person, but I've had many people in my life. And Serge Saramenga, he was the head spot trader at HSBC. He was one of the guys. Beat Nussbaumer, he headed up Goldman's and Morgan Stanley, also UBS. He's another guy. Adam, my business partner, he's another one of my mentors. He's been around the market 35 years. Stefania Perucci, she used to be a portfolio manager at Morgan Stanley. I've spoken to her on Zoom, but we only know each other on LinkedIn, but we're in touch, and she's always supportive. She got a PhD in physics. She runs her own hedge fund. She's an incredible person on LinkedIn, super smart. And she's always texting me words of encouragement on my messenger. But there are loads of people, and anyone, especially on LinkedIn. This is where I blog every day, by the way, so I'll leave you all my details. But anyone that is worth their salt, who may be a lot more qualified than me, doesn't mind me asking questions. It's brilliant. And there's a little bit of academic arrogance in some people, but those are the people I don't associate with. The real smart guys and girls are the ones that are quite forthcoming, because they don't have anything to hide, but those are a few names. I mean, there are certain pit traders I work with as well, but I would just say, that there are, the guys at Real Vision, they're really cool. Raul, he's like legends. Damien, they're doing, demystifying, the broadcast of financial. They're into a lot of hedge fund guys. So yeah, there are. I mean, there's too many to mention, but those are some of the names.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, one of the things that I've totally appreciated about the trading world in general, and especially since looking to help other traders, is how they're just plain. There are a lot of really, I mean, there are a lot of scammers, there are a lot of charlatans in the space just because there's a lot of money floating around, but there are also a lot of really just very good people who are very willing to help. And gracious is like the best word I've found because like yeah, there were people that I felt were like totally out of my class who were very helpful to me when I was first starting out. And that's very cool. And that's why I wanted to ask you. It's good that you have such a long list. That's very cool. Well, you got any favorite books that you'd like to recommend to our listeners?
Yes, there's two. There's one, Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas. That was my first, I mean, classic book, classic.
Oh,
There's anything by Steedlemail or Market Profile. And they all came from Wiley Press from Chicago.
yeah.
Market Profile, Standard Deviation, beautiful. And the technical one was Murphy's Technical Analysis. That's a big old book. It's like written by, I think it's Patrick Murphy years ago, but it still stands. It's a big old book. It's a great book. Those are my first books. So I sort of, there are loads. I mean, obviously Market Wizards for aspirational stuff, beautiful, but those are the books I still read. And there's loads of, there's just so many great books, but those are the ones I guess, when you read your first book and it really touches you
Mhm.
and you kind of hold on to it. And I'm sure they're better books, but those are the ones that really connect with you because you kind of like, oh my God, that book changed me. And Trading in the Zone is one of those books. I still read it. I think, oh yeah, that's still relevant. That's still, written all those years ago. And yeah.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. Indeed. And I totally agree. Yeah, some books, yeah, definitely. And, Mark Douglas's book, I'd say probably 40 to 50% of the people that I talk to have read his book.
Oh, really?
And
Oh, brilliant.
yeah, I mean, just in general, colleagues or clients or pretty much anybody in the trading space, like, yeah, what's one of your favorite books? Trading in the Zone.
Oh, that's
That's
great.
like on everybody's top five list, which is
Yeah, I got a paperback. Well, I've got I'm on my third paperback because it's been battered and torn and thumbed and underlined and highlighted with my trusty highlighter pen and they just get torn up. So I'm just like, yeah, I just have to buy another one.
yeah, I know how that goes. Well, I tell you what, I've very much enjoyed talking with you today, and I appreciate you sharing all that you have. This has been really excellent, um, and it's very worthwhile for sure. Now, as far as your training, I mean, you told us a little bit about that. Is there anything in particular as far as, speaking to the audience, to let them know what they can expect and what's probably, a great way to reach out to you? But you said you LinkedIn, but do they just, get on LinkedIn and message you, or like, so what is it you kind of are offering as far as coaching? If you could describe it a little bit to give them an idea what they'd be looking at and work, what it's like to work with you.
Absolutely. So essentially, we have a number of programs. Our signature is our 12-month program,
Okay.
which involves 41 videos. So self-study, but also the live element. So you get access to me live every day.
Okay.
And one of the great things that we do, the reason our traders do incredibly well is because of the live element and the accessibility. So you can ask me any questions every day. I present and write a macro show every morning called the Adamis Daily. We have a very unique private WhatsApp group and a hub of excellence online as well. And it's a family really. And that's our 12-month program. We offer futures desks seats at the end of it if you want to, or if you didn't want that, just trade your own money, that's fine too. We do a 3-month foundation course as well. And we also do a one-to-one, which is at a premium, obviously. But essentially what you really get is the accessibility to an institutional trader. You can talk to someone who's been there and done it, who's changed their career late, but knows and loves the markets every day, and that's the key thing. We do get other institutions from banks and hedge funds come on the show as well, so you can talk to them. They're all spot guys or portfolio managers or treasury guys. So we get some really good guests on as well, and it's just basically access to me, and we do an assessment before we go through objectives and we deliver those. Keeps me accountable, keeps you focused, and we have a plan for you. And when you finish that, you're always going to be part of the family. We go and see we're global. We go and visit our clients anywhere in the world. That's the key thing we do. And we do events. I'm seeing some clients in Dubai in mid-April.
Nice.
We travel extensively. I've actually got a couple. One of the guys, he's now working at the Fed through our sort of mentoring program. He's in Kansas Fed, and we're going to go and see him. So we do travel as well, and that's pretty much what you get.
Nice. And if I heard you correctly earlier, it's largely going to start. It's all going to start with a conversation where you can kind of talk to them, find out what's going on with them, and what would be the best path for them. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. You can contact me at the adamisprinciple.com. I'll give you my details. But the best way, really, and I'm very approachable. I answer every message, by the way, is LinkedIn. So it's Patrick Reid, LinkedIn. And I'm up there. I'm regular on BBC News and various podcasts. So please do connect, send me a message, and we can jump on a call. We can go through and go from there.
Okay. Yeah, excellent. And I'll make sure that all the your contact information and links and everything are in the description and the show notes down below. So excellent. Well, again, thank you so much for being on here, and everybody, thank you for listening. One thing that's super important, if any of this resonated with you, make sure that you do reach out. Don't just listen and then continue on with what you've been doing if it's not, really rocking it. Take some action, do something. And if, what Patrick's got here, resonates with you, definitely, reach out to him and have the conversation. I can tell just through our conversation and what I know of him prior to our conversation, if you wind up saying, yeah, hey, I like you and I want to do business with you, you're going to be glad. You're going to be glad that you did, and probably have a heck of a fun time along the way. So, thank you again, Patrick, for coming on here. And everybody, thanks for being here. That's this episode, and we'll see everyone on the next episode of the Consistent Profits Podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us today on the Consistent Profits Podcast, brought to you by Inside Out Trading. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe on your favorite channel, and we'll see you on the next episode. Cheers.